as time went by in these two restaurants that I worked at, I noticed a kind of a undercurrent of kind of, I guess you would say, kind of sexual harassment, really, from people who were in positions of power down towards the apprentices and stuff that were working there, female apprentices. And I found that really weird and shocking, especially because I was kind of already in my mid-20s by that stage, and I was just like, this is not okay, you know?
This week on Dirty Linen, we are going to focus on women. Yay, the women. We're leading up to International Women's Day, and I thought it was a great opportunity to just check in with some women, see what hospitality is like for them, see what the issues are, and chat about toxic masculinity, which is in the news at the moment, as it bloody well should be. I'm speaking today to Miranda Moreira, who is a very old friend of mine. We actually went to school together, and she's probably the first person that I knew personally that went off and became a chef, but she is no longer working in the industry, and we're going to find out why. Hello, Miranda.
Hey, Dani, how are you?
I am really very well. So happy to have you on the show. So we went out for an amazing meal a couple of weeks ago. We went out to, was it Emerald, like somewhere in the hills, and we went to Entervire Laundry to enjoy a beautiful Indian feast from Hayley Raichura at Entervire Laundry. And when we were sitting there at our communal table, we chatted about lots of stuff, but one of the things we did talk about was your time in the hospitality industry and the fact that you're no longer working in it. Just give us a little bit of a sense of your journey there.
So I finished high school and went to art school and got, my degree in fine art, and I'd always loved cooking. I worked in hospo during my degree in fine art, got spat out of art school with kind of no real direction in a way, and I was just kind of really understanding the reality of the situation, which is that, you've got to have another job if you want to do art, So I fell into an apprenticeship in one of the restaurants where I was working. Which really kind of changed my life in many ways. For me, the idea of doing a cooking apprenticeship at that age, because I was a little older, I was like 22 or 23 when I started, felt like, for me, it was kind of weird because I was older, but I thought this is a great opportunity for me to travel later on. I thought I could take this kind of career all over the world if I wanted to. And so I got into it.
So who did you train with?
So I trained at Cafe K in the city. It's just a sweet restaurant owned by Cooney, who had the kind of like quite well-known Japanese restaurant at the top of Little Burke Street many years ago. And he owned Cafe K, and it was like a kind of Italian European style food. It was a lovely place to work, and we had a lot of fun there. And I was just working as a kind of a kitchen hand, really, as part-time work. And then Deb, who was the head chef, she just kind of said to me one day, look, you're pretty good at this. Do you want to actually do your apprenticeship with us? And so that's how it started.
And you said it sort of changed your life or set you on a new direction. Like, did you love it? Like, was it mind-opening, or did it just feel like a job? Like, what was it like?
So at the beginning, it was like this kind of lovely, delightful work where there was lots of banter, and I loved working with food. I loved, playing around with flavours, and I loved the sense of camaraderie that we had in the kitchen. And I also really loved the sense of satisfaction at the end of the night of having a busy night, having made food that was, instantly enjoyed by people. And it was kind of like this sense of completion at the end of every night, which was kind of quite wonderful.
Very satisfying.
It was very satisfying. I love those things about it.
And how did things progress?
So I ended up getting a job. So I did part of my apprenticeship with Cafe K, and then I ended up with at a couple of places that were a little different. So Cafe K, the kitchen was run by a woman, a female chef, and there was a couple of gorgeous gay guys that worked in the kitchen too. And it was just a really lovely vibe. It was very kind of inclusive and friendly and respectful. And then I went to a couple of restaurants that I'm not going to name, but both of them had a very a much more old school, aggressive, shouty, I hate to say it, but male vibe in the kitchen. It was quite a shock. And there was a lot of, as time went by in these two restaurants that I worked at, I noticed a kind of a undercurrent of kind of, I guess you would say, kind of sexual harassment, really, from people who were in positions of power down towards the apprentices and stuff that were working there, female apprentices. And I found that really weird and shocking, especially because I was kind of already in my mid-20s by that stage, and I was just like, this is not okay, you know?
Did you feel empowered to, you know, speak up against it, or to I don't know, to report it to anybody? I mean, did that feel possible?
I think at the time there was definitely a culture of putting up with it and rolling your eyes, you know, and kind of just being one of the guys and just allowing it to happen. But my partner at the time, he was really angry about it, and he came and had a chat with the person involved and actually kind of really stood up for me and said, this is not okay, what you're doing. And the guy was completely in shock that anybody challenged him on it. And it was quite it was a bit of a game changer. It really got me out of that environment. Noting this guy's reaction, which was kind of incredulous, like, why would she be offended by that kind of stuff? And so it really steered me on a path of getting out of those types of kitchens and finding a really beautiful, respectful kitchen again where I could work.
And were you able to do that?
Yeah, so I ended up working and finishing my apprenticeship with the gorgeous Greg Malouf, who is, you know, one of Australia's beloved chefs who specialised in Middle Eastern cooking. Going to work with Greg at O'Connell's, it was hard to get the job, and I was very persistent. I called every few weeks and kind of said, look, I really want to work with you. And he was like, nothing available now, but try again down the track. So I kept on trying. And then one day I got home from work from the other place, and there was a message on my phone from Greg Malouf, and I was so excited. And he basically said, yep, come in and give us a trial. And so that changed a lot of things for me. It was a beautiful kitchen environment. It was still pretty hectic and kind of, you know, it wasn't shouty in a bad way, but it was pretty, it was a very exhausting and kind of, the hours were grueling, and you were expected to, you know, be at the top of your game working for Greg. And that was really amazing. It was a huge learning curve for me, and I improved dramatically in the next, you know, 6 months working with him. I ended up staying there for a few years. But Greg is a beautiful, respectful head chef who makes you want to do your best for him in a calm and kind way, you know.
Well, that sounds good. I mean, I suppose, you know, it's interesting, like you've spoken about kitchens that were lovely and kitchens that were more tricky to, you know, feel respected. Do you feel like it was or it is a cultural thing in hospitality, or is it just like the world in general where, you know, some people are good and some people are tricky, some people make you feel fine and some people make you feel bad?
I think it's a mixture of the two. Sorry for interrupting. I think it is a mixture of the two, but I think definitely in the world of hospitality kitchens, there is and has been, and I think it's probably shifting a bit now. It's been a long time since I've been in a kitchen, but I think back in those days there was a real sense of you had to be tough. It was a little bit like being in the army. It was like, you're not going to get much money for this, but you've got to take a lot of pride in your work. You've got to do grueling hours, and you've got to suck it up. There was a real vibe of suck it up, you know, even though the money was pretty terrible and the hours were completely antisocial and grueling, and there was quite a lot of drinking at the end of the night and stuff like that. So it's a tough industry.
So how did things progress? What happened after you worked with Greg?
Well, I finished my apprenticeship with Greg, and it was wonderful. I felt really proud that I'd done it with him. I stayed there for a little bit longer, and then I took off. I left Australia. I landed in London, got a great job there for 7 months at the Great Eastern Dining Room, which was in kind of Hoxton, Shoreditch area in 1999, which was kind of a great time to be in London. And then through that, I got an incredible kind of unicorn job working for a famous French actor in Paris. And I ended up living in Paris for 6 years, and that was brilliant.
Do we have to guess who it was?
Imagine a French actor that looks like he enjoys food.
I want to say Gerard Depardieu.
Exactly. So I ended up working for him and his family for 6 years, and during that time I also worked for a few other people that were in the industry. Johnny Depp was one of the people that I worked for, and that was brilliant. Lovely person. So yeah, the whole Paris thing was just a whole other world, and it was a really wonderful way to kind of finish up my career in a way as a servant for people, if you understand what I mean. I think in a way working in kitchens, it's serving people, and I moved to Paris and I was still serving people, but it was in a different environment. And coming back to Melbourne, very heavily pregnant with my first baby, I realised I just couldn't do kitchens anymore or hospitality anymore.
Let's just head back to Paris briefly, because I really want to ask you, how do you feed Gerard Depardieu, someone who obviously is a lover of food, a gourmand? What kind of stuff do you put in front of him?
So they're all the family and Gerard were all about very beautiful, fresh produce. So there was lots of whole baked sea bass, for example. Loads and loads of seasonal roast vegetables and huge salads. There was every year there was the Garriguette strawberry season. Do we have Garriguette strawberries in Australia? Do you know?
I don't even know what that is.
These are these strawberries that come out in Europe or in France for a very short period of time, maybe 6 weeks or 8 weeks every year. And they are the most strawberry-flavoured strawberries you can ever imagine. They're kind of longish and very red and just juicy and insane. You cannot go back to a normal strawberry after you've had a Garriguette strawberry. Anyway, so those kind of things. And I think at the time that I was there, they cost something like €16 a kilo or something like that.
Wow.
And so it was, and that was a long time ago. So it was all about, spending money, like obviously they were very wealthy, spending, large amounts of money on very, very beautiful, exquisite produce from, I had to, go on my scooter and drive, 15K to find the exact right fish for them, from the perfect fish shop, So it was all about the finest produce and very simple cooking styles. So lots of roasts and baking and things like that.
And would you eat with them?
No, not really. I was just kind of pottering around and chatting with them, but I would never sit down at the table with them. That was just too weird. I was, no.
And what about Johnny Depp? What does he want to eat?
Johnny and Vanessa, who were completely delightful, Johnny in particular, he likes American style food. So there was, burgers and, very simple pasta, roast chicken, southern fried chicken, things like that. So that it was a kind of a simple American kind of vaguely fast food style of cooking for him and Vanessa.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was great.
So you came back to Australia, you were about to have your first child, and I mean, so it doesn't sound like being heavily pregnant is exactly the right time to step back into a commercial kitchen in Melbourne. But did you think that you couldn't go back to kitchen work at all?
So I ended up, I came back to Melbourne and gorgeous Greg Malouf had, what was it called? Momo.
Momo,
yeah. Momo. And he was like, Mully, that was my nickname, Mully, because I looked like I had a mullet whenever I wore the chef's hat. So Molly, come and work for us. We don't care if you're pregnant. Just do whatever you want, as many hours as you can do kind of thing. So that was very sweet. So I ended up working at Momo with a big belly and in the kitchen briefly. So it was only for maybe 5 months. I was so out of my depth. It was a really incredible kitchen with an incredibly talented team and super fast. And I'd been relaxing in Paris for 6 years, basically, cruising around beautiful French homes and cooking in their kitchens without any pressure, really. And so I was very much out of my depth. And also I realised, I don't know if I can do this anymore, peeling, huge, big buckets of braised ox tongues, or chopping and peeling, 20-kilo bags of onions. I just was like, I just don't know if I can do this anymore. It's really a tough job. And, going home and scrubbing all the smells off your arms and under your fingernails and stuff like that, especially when you're pregnant, pretty tough,
Yeah.
But also, I still loved and enjoyed the incredible talent that I was working in amongst, and loved still working with food. Like, there's something beautiful about making incredible meals for people, there's something lovely about that. But while I was working there, I was just ticking over in my brain the whole time, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do that's not in a kitchen? I need to come up with some other career. And I just started my little design business, and that's been going and growing ever since.
So your business is called Bride and Wolfe, and you make you describe what you do.
So I make, at the moment, it seems to be the main thing that I'm making that people love is I make bright coloured mirrors. So I make mirrors that go on the wall. They're made out of plexiglass, so they're multicoloured. So each mirror has got a few different colours on it, and so it's quite unusual. You don't normally see these kind of things around. And I guess the most popular one that I do is in the shape of a lightning bolt, and it featured in the David Bowie Is exhibition that travelled all around the world. They were selling them there. And I do, multicoloured roller skate mirrors, or multicoloured lips mirrors, or I do ice cream mirrors. And it's just a joy. I feel incredibly grateful that I get to make these beautiful objects of art and sell them to people who love them.
Yeah, I mean, what you do is great, but I suppose to me it's interesting and a bit sad that, talented women like yourself don't see a place for them, a comfortable, workable position for themselves in the food industry. And so many women are lost to kitchen life. Why do you think that is, and what would need to change for women to enter and to stay longer in kitchens?
Oh my goodness. I don't even know where to start on this one. I think that's, it's the way society is run. I mean, when, if you want to have a family and bring up children, it's very, very difficult to work in a successful kitchen. You need to be all over what's going on in a kitchen if you're a head chef. And it is, it's very hard to do that when you've got beautiful small children and you're missing out on bedtimes, 5 nights a week. And aside from that, I guess there's the labour of it. Like, it's a physical, very physical job with and yeah, it's a tough job. I don't know. I don't know what could change. I think more female run restaurants with, maybe different. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that, but I think, something needs to shift.
How much of it do you think is about, respect? You spoke of the sexual harassment that you experienced. Do you think that is a big part of why women don't stay in kitchens?
I don't know. I think that a lot of the women that I worked with were just continuing with the eye-rolling stuff and putting up with it. I think probably things have changed a lot now. I don't hang out with a huge amount of people who work in kitchens anymore, but I would say that just through, big shifts generally in society in the last 5, maybe 10 years, with the Me Too movement and stuff like that, I think that probably there's been a big shift in hospitality, in particular in the kitchens. I think it's very different for front of house. I think there's I don't know, it seems like there's some, strong female presence in front of house in a lot of restaurants that I've been to recently, which I really enjoy, probably more so than when I used to work back in the 90s. So, yeah, I think probably things are shifting a little bit. And with regards to this idea of respect, I think, unfortunately, back in the day, you were respected if you put up with it. There was a kind of a respect, like, she's cool, she's one of the guys, she'll put up with it, and that's where you got the respect, which was really weird.
Yeah, that is really weird. We will respect you if you deal with us disrespecting you.
Yeah, if you allow us to be kind of gross, we'll give you some kind of begrudging respect. It's very toxic.
You mentioned, that the kitchens were quite hierarchical, and it was sort of, you could relate it to being in the army. And I think when those power structures are they're so much a part of how things run, and things are, the decisions are made top down. There isn't a culture of speaking up or speaking back. You just get on with it. I think that is really an environment where any kind of discrimination is more likely to flourish, whether it's sexual discrimination or racial or whatever it is. Did you feel that was the case?
I feel that was the case? Yeah, I mean, I didn't know where to go. Like, I didn't know who to speak to, and because the guy was at the top. He was this particular person who was quite harassing. He was at the top, so I didn't really know where else to go. And it took, a man, my partner at the time, to talk to him to make it kind of ease up a little bit, So, yeah, when it starts at the top, where do you go?
So you've got sons. Do you focus a lot on talking to them about how to relate to women? I kind of I think I show them how to relate to women by our conversations together, and giving them, viewpoints that I have that might be different to theirs in certain areas, but also allowing them to have their viewpoints, and just there being a general sense of mutual respect kind of thing. I try not to push too hard, because I think there's a balance between pushing hard with teenage boys and them rejecting your thoughts, and so yeah, there's a balance there. Yeah, amazing. So do you still enjoy cooking?
Oh, do I enjoy cooking? Sometimes I love it. What I like is that I know how to make things taste good. So, and I don't really need to follow recipes a lot of the time, that my kids, I think, are really starting to realise that mum makes good food. And that's interesting, because I think they've taken it for granted for a long time. I'm trying to teach the kids how to cook. So we make homemade gnocchi together, and I show they're involved in many of the things that I make, which are all pretty similar things to what I made in Paris, really, like, baked fish, or, simple things like, organic kind of chicken soups and stuff like that. So, I want my boys to have that neither of them is particularly, super fascinated with cooking, but they've got some basic skills, and I hope that they can continue learning while they live with me.
Okay, awesome, Miranda. I'm looking forward to Brian Wolfe's food series. Do you want to tell us about that as we wrap it up?
Oh, yes. So I am making a new range, and it's going to be called Glass by Bright & Wolfe, and it's a range of glass mirrors. So for the first time, I'll be using real glass as opposed to plexiglass, which is kind of like glass, but it's made from perspex. And so I'm doing. At this stage, I'm starting off with 3 designs. One of them is this incredible how would I describe it? It's a mirror that changes colour when you look at it from different angles. And I'm doing a huge bunch of grapes. And I've got this mirror that's kind of, it changes colour from purple through to kind of a dark turquoise. And so it's going to be this beautiful kind of 1970s Italian vibe up on the wall, big bunch of grapes. Anybody who loves wine or whatever will love this mirror. The design is gorgeous, and I'm very excited to get my first sample in the next month or so. And then I'm doing a huge banana, so like a big yellow glass banana that can go either vertically or horizontally. And then I'm also doing a big sexy peach that kind of looks like a bum.
Wow. I think they need to be in cafes all over Australia.
Yeah, I think they're going to be really fun. I feel like, we need some fun in our homes, and these are a little bit sexy as well. So I think that's nice as well, a bit of fun, sexy decor in people's homes.
Great. All right. Thanks, Miranda. It's great to get a little bit of insight into your storied, varied life. Thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Total pleasure. Great to talk to you, Dani.
Okay. See ya. This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about. We spend a week thrashing around each issue, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This is a Deep in the Weeds production.